You miss me? I'm sure you did. It's been a couple of weeks, but I'm back with a new edition of Around the Bases on the EMFBL this week. Lots to cover, so stick around.
That's what I was thinking too.
All right, I'm back. A little bit of a different setup. I hope my mic's working okay. Hope I didn't deafen you with that intro. Mic seems to be a little lower than the music. I'm working on that. Got a little bit of a different setup. My voice is still kind of going in and out, so I'm going to be probably pausing after each little segment, so you're going to see me kind of shift into a different spot magically. So you'll have to get used to that. So, in 2 weeks, not too much has changed. We take a look at the standings, and Toronto, Broad Street, Chicago, Hespeler are technically your leaders, although 3 of the 4 divisions actually have ties for first place. Wilmore and Toronto are tied, Broad Street, Richville tied, Chicago, Kelowna are tied. Helo's now 2 back of Hespeler, as the top teams are struggling a little bit, and I'm going to get to that a little bit later. So there's your divisions. Not a whole lot of shifting since the last update, except for Pullman's moved up into 3rd in the Anderson division. Carolina's moved down a spot. Other than that, the positions have pretty much stayed the same. So, let's start with the rising and the falling. Which teams have been rising so far? Well, Kelowna. Kelowna's the hottest team in the league right now. They're finally starting to pitch a little better. Surprisingly still, their bullpen has been their strength in their pitching, where it was supposed to be their rotation. But it's been the reverse. But the rotation settled down a little bit. All 3 of these teams have gone 13-7 so far in May. And each one of them is closing the gap, or like Kelowna is tied for first. Kelowna's got a plus 66 run differential in May, so they are playing very, very well right now. Hilo has gone league leading 18-8 over the past month, while Moncton has gone 16-11. These are your top 3 teams as far as records go in May. Staying steady. Broad Street, Los Angeles, and Mount Pearl. Each team's got a winning record over the last month. Not just in May, over the last month. So they're all staying steady. Each one's avoiding long slumps, and they're staying right there. They're a winning streak away from suddenly really making some noise. They're a losing streak away from dropping right out of it, except for Broad Street. Broad Street's tied for first in their division, where they're supposed to be. But Los Angeles and Mount Pearl are actually putting together impressive seasons. Starting to fall. Well, these 4 teams. Wilmore, Richville, Kitchener, Bonavista Vista Bay. There's some reason to worry for some of these teams. There's reasons not to worry for some of these teams. For the most part, they're in slumps. Wilmore, 12-15 with a minus 33 run differential. That's in May, I believe. No, actually, sorry, that's over the last month. This is over the last month. So they're minus 33 run differential. Richville's 12-15, minus 5 run differential. So minus 5 isn't horrible. It's a slump mostly for Richville, but Richville's going through some injuries right now. And so that's going to affect them pretty good. Kitchener's a league worst 9-18 with a minus 45 run differential over the last month. I don't know what's going on in Kitchener. They're just falling apart right now. And Bonavista Vista Bay were 20-11 at one point. They are now 11-16 over the last month. They are 27-27. They have a minus 46 run differential over the last month. And I'll get more into that one a little later. So, points of interest. Basically, this is not just necessarily covering the last month. This is just league points of interest, or last week, I should say. I know it's the EMFBL this week, but I'm just kind of updating you on the league because it has been a few weeks since I've updated. And the big story last week, Dylan Bundy suffered his first loss of the season. Dylan Bundy is now, well, he went from 9-0 with a ERA, an even 1 ERA. He's now 9-1 with a 101 ERA. He lost 1-0. It took Kenta Maeda striking out 15 batters and throwing a 3-hit complete game shutout to finally beat Dylan Bundy. That's how well he has pitched for Chicago. And honestly, I saw the matchup and I went, well, Helo's going to lose this one. And they didn't. So Dylan Bundy, who's been absolutely lights out, he's pitched 80 innings this year. He's given up 40 hits, 9 earned runs. He's walked 19, struck out 97. He's only given up 3 home runs. He is having a phenomenal season. Right now, he's the runaway guy for pitcher of the year. But we are still pretty early, so anything can happen. But right now, he looks really, really good. Is Garrett Cole the answer in Moncton? I've been making some comments about Cole. The last time I did an update, I made a comment about Cole and DeGrom in Wilmore. The difference in the two pitchers is DeGrom has actually had a good career in Wilmore. He's had better moments than he's had down moments. And DeGrom's actually 4-0 with a 0.36 ERA in his last 4 outings. So he's really turned things around since I made those comments about maybe Wilmore and Moncton should switch the pitchers. As far as Garrett Cole goes, Garrett Cole's 3-8 now with a 636 earned run average. So I was trying to figure out what is wrong with Garrett Cole. I figured maybe he's in a hitter's park. I knew Moncton had changed their park, and I took a look at it, and they play in Marlins Park. Marlins Park is a pitcher's park. So then I thought, okay, well, maybe he's getting beat up on the road. So I checked the statistics, and sure enough, he is 0-5 with a 6.98 ERA on the road. So I figured, okay, it's got to be the road is his problem. No. Then I looked at his home record. He is 3-3 with a 5.82 ERA at home. He was actually 3-1 with a 4.18 ERA, but his last 2 outings have been horrible. So now his home record is just as poor. I've said it before. There's players who, for some reason, no matter how good they are in Major League Baseball, for whatever reason, it doesn't translate to the EMFBL. Garrett Cole is one of those guys. He's pitched 5 seasons. This is now his 6th season. And he is a career 62-57 with a 4.52 earned run average. So you kind of wonder if maybe Moncton would be best just to pass him off while he's still of value and see about getting somebody else in there that might simply be better in the EMFBL for him. Chances are he would trade him and Garrett Cole would excel with somebody else, although quite potentially that might not happen. Remember Roger Clemens. Roger Clemens was another guy that they had who, for whatever reason, didn't pitch well with Moncton, and he traded him. He had one good season elsewhere, but he was just one of those pitchers that, for whatever reason, didn't pitch well in the EMFBL. So Garrett Cole seems to be that kind of guy. So you got to wonder if that talk is going on in Moncton, where management may just finally decide that, hey, the guy's, I think, 30 years old now. Look at his numbers. He's very valuable. Maybe now is the time to ship him because he's just not doing anything positive for this team. He's had, in 5 previous seasons up to this one, he had 1 season with an ERA under 4. All the other seasons, I think he had 2 seasons he was in the 4s and 2 seasons he was in the 5s. So this isn't something that should be shocking in a sense with Garrett Cole because he's consistently done this through his career. So I just found that interesting. So we'll have to monitor Garrett Cole and see what happens there. All right. Cabrian Hayes, chasing records. I think it's Cabrian. I don't know how it's pronounced. I'm assuming that's how it's pronounced. So the Binghamton outfielder is quietly putting together a very nice season. He is currently hitting, after a 3-for-5 Sunday afternoon, he's currently hitting .412. He's 32 for his last 75 at-bats. and he hit 427 in May, 290 or 392 in April. So he's consistently been either over or around 400. He's only missed 3 games, so he's gonna get a ton of at bats this year because he's not injury prone. He's rated normal. The league record is 380, set by Derek Jeter of Cambridge back in 2007 or something like that, I think. So he's well ahead of the 380 pace, but I know it's still only coming up to June, but he's hitting 412. This is a guy flirting with 400. We saw this last year, I believe it was, with Mookie Betts. And he ended up not even hitting over 380. I think he ended up in the 360s or 350 range. This guy's, if he can stay consistent like this, he seems to be the only real big bat in the Binghamton lineup. And if he continues to do this, we could be talking about him later on in the summer, either flirting with 400 or flirting with the record. So we'll see if he can keep up the pace. I believe Mookie Betts kept up the pace until late July, maybe early August last year. We'll see if Hayes can continue to do that for Binghamton. It's going to be hard because he is playing pretty much every day in Binghamton. Mr. Anderson, Mr. Perfect. Nick Anderson of the Wilmore Mammoth, who continued to just cycle out save leaders in the league. Anderson now has 15 saves, and he has been absolutely perfect so far this season. 15 for 15. He's got a 0.39 earned run average, 23 innings, 12 hits, 1 earned run, 9 walks, 36 strikeouts. No blown saves. So he's been absolutely perfect. He's one of the reasons why Wilmore is tied for first place right now. And if he continues to do that, Wilmore starters are going to be very, very happy with this guy. Moving on. Strange Brew. So, before the season started, I said about keeping an eye on any time when Toronto and Guelph are playing each other, because last year in 12 games, Toronto and Guelph put up football scores against each other and just put up ridiculous numbers. Toronto went 7-5 against Guelph last year. This season, Toronto has been red hot up until this past week, where they faced Guelph at home. Earlier in the year, they played in Guelph. I think it was the second series of the year. And Guelph surprisingly swept Toronto. Now, Toronto kind of struggled along early in the season, and then they got red hot. So I figured, hey, Toronto's probably going to come in to their home park and change their fortunes against Guelph. Didn't happen. Guelph ended up sweeping Toronto this weekend. So Guelph is 6-0 against the Brew Crew this year. I can't explain it at all. Everybody has faced everybody in their league 6 times now. Guelph's the only team to have 6 wins against one of the teams. So nobody else has gone a perfect 6-0 against anybody. Guelph has outscored them 35-15, has got 2 shutouts, 2 complete game shutouts. And Toronto is 29-19 against the rest of the league. And they're 0-6 against Guelph. They've kind of single-handedly helped Guelph get back to 500. I can't explain it. They won't meet again until sometime in July, early August. And we'll see if Toronto can change their fortunes around then. Who knows what Toronto's record will be then or Guelph's record will be then. But yeah, it's just one of those strange things that for some reason, the series that was so back and forth last year with high-scoring games is suddenly everything's just going Guelph's way this year. Go big or go home. So, in playing the games, I notice things. Obviously. One of the things I've always noticed, and I've said it to managers before, who have asked me about Kelowna. And I said, Kelowna has this incredible knack of scoring multiple runs an inning. Now, a lot of it probably has to do with the fact that management in Kelowna likes to go with heavy platooning. And when they're playing weaker teams, those platoons can put up multiple runs in innings. So out of curiosity, I checked because I noticed lately they were doing it again. So I actually went back because, I had time. It's a long weekend. I had time to go through and I looked at Kelowna's games all year. And I came to this answer here. So Kelowna has scored in 143 innings this year. And 51% of those innings that they've scored in have been multiple run innings. 23.8% of those innings were 2-run innings. 16.1% were 3-run innings, and 11.2% were 4+ innings. 48% of games that they've played so far this year, they have scored in the first inning. 61.6% of those first innings that they've scored in, they've scored more than 1 run. That included a 12-run first inning against Seattle back on May 18th, where they scored 12 runs in the first inning, and then they just packed it in and won the game like 12-3 or something like that. 4 times, all in May, they've scored 7 times in an inning. 4 times in May they've done this. It's incredible. Now, there could be other teams that do it almost as much or close to it. For Kelowna, it is just something that stood out to me that I've always noticed. They always seem to score in pairs or more when they do score. So yeah, I checked the numbers and I just found that incredible. To score, you figure in May alone, they've had 1 12-run inning and 4 7-run innings. And then you wonder why they're in first place and the hottest team in the league right now. That's why. They're scoring a lot. And yeah, the goal with Kelowna isn't just to keep them off the scoreboard in an inning. It's to try and keep them from scoring multiple runs in an inning, because they just seem to have a knack for doing that. Reaching their limits. So it's time to start keeping an eye. It was probably a little sooner than that. It was probably everybody should have been keeping an eye on their players just to make sure everybody is within their limits. So I checked, and we've got 3 guys standing out right now. One of them is Yolmer Sanchez in Binghamton, who has started 30 games. He's permitted to start 40 games. So I'll have to keep an eye on that one, unless we can get a Binghamton manager in there, which I don't actually have that on my agenda, but I am going to be putting something out this week just to see if I can generate some interest. I mean, hey, there's a Los Angeles team sitting there above 500. Why shouldn't they draw interest? Wyatt Matheson of Bonavista Vista Bay is at 36 starts, so he can start 4 more games, and then he can't start again. He's got to go to the bench. And Tanner Hewick of Hingston Creek, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. He started his 9th game this year. He can only start 9 games, so he now has to go to the bullpen. He cannot start any more games the rest of this season, so Hingston Creek is going to need to replace him in that starting rotation with another pitcher. So those are your 3 guys right now that have reached or are close to reaching their limits. There are other guys in the league who are around 20, 21, so they've got lots of time, nothing to worry about yet, but managers, make sure you're checking your bench players to make sure that they're not about to surpass that 40. I try to keep an eye on it, but really it's up to you. And if I happen to check and they're over that 40 games, you lose that player. So, to a suspension. So, make sure you keep an eye on that. Minor improvements. So, the Buckins minors are in last overall. But they have been playing better. And the reason they've been playing better is because of their top 3 pitchers. Kyle Cody, over the last 6 starts, has a 2.87 earned run average. Problem is he's not getting any offense, so he's only 1-2. Kwang Hyung Kim is 2-1 in his last 6 starts with a 2.98 ERA, also not getting a ton of run support. And Austin Gomber has a 3.09 ERA in his last 5 starts and 1-1. So those are good numbers. Buckins, I believe, in May has a 3.67 earned run average in May. So the pitching staff in Buckins, minus the bottom 2 starters, is doing well right now. The team's just not finding a lot of offense. If they found a lot of offense, they would actually start winning some games. But the pitching's doing well, except for Castano and Clark in the bottom part of the rotation. Castano's 0-2 with a 5.04 ERA in his last 5 starts. Clark is a really bad 1-2, 7.83 ERA in his last 5 starts. He's now injured, which might be a good thing for Buckins. So they'll need to replace Clark in the rotation. But I can't remember how long he's out for, but they're going to want to replace him. But I think they would have wanted to do that anyway, even if he didn't get hurt with numbers like that. But in the bullpen, Cody Hewer is 3-2 with a save and a 1.85 ERA so far this season. He's thrown 43.2 innings in relief, and he has been their main guy to go to in relief and really the anchor. So, pitching right now in Buckins is doing well, but they need to find some offense. Didn't mention this at the beginning, but this is going to be more than a 20-minute video, by the way. But I've got like 3 weeks of information to pack into this thing, so I'll try to keep it to 30 minutes, but I'm already at 20 right now. So, it's tough at the top. The top teams in the league going into May were Wilmore, Richville, Bonavista Bay, and Hespeler. Wilmore's now tied for first with Toronto. Richville's tied for first with Broad Street. Bonavista Bay has dropped a third in their division, and Hespeler's lead has shrunk to 2 over Hilo. Wilmore, Hespeler, and Richville have all gone 9-11 so far in May. Bonavista Bay has gone 7-13. Bonavista Bay's run differential is -34 in May. They are really slumping. The reason for that stands right out. They're hitting .215 as a team in May and a .539 earned run average in May. And the starters have gone 5-10. So the Tigers are in a major slump right now after a really good start. I really believe they're going to turn things around. The interleague play coming up is going to be key to seeing if they can do that. And as far as the other teams go, Wilmore, .241 batting average in May, .431 team ERA. Their starters have gone... Their 4 starters have gone 2-8, and then they've got DeGrom, who's 4-0. So their starters have gone 6-8. DeGrom's been the best of the batch with a 0.36 earned run average so far in May. He's really turned things around. Apparently he didn't like me talking bad about him. Richville, they got a +6 run differential in May. So they're 9-11 with a +6 run differential. Team's hitting .229, so the batting average could come up. The pitching staff's got a .372 ERA in May, and the starters went 5-8. So really, they just need to find some runs. They've had trouble finding runs in May, and that's kind of held them back a little bit. So Richville's just in a smaller slump. Injuries, like I said earlier, have affected them. So we'll see when the injuries start coming back, if they can start turning things around. And Hespeler is a -3 run differential. They've hit .249 in May with a .442 team ERA. Their starters have gone 7-10. They've just lost close games. It doesn't seem like a major struggle in Hespeler, and they should be turning things around shortly. So we'll see. We'll see if interleague play helps them as well. Power outages. So the big talk early in the season was Jared Walsh and Aaron Judge, in a sense, in Pullman. Aaron Judge started the season, he had 4 home runs from March 22nd to 30, so a good start, nothing standing out. And then he lit it up in April, hitting 11 home runs. He's since had 5 home runs in May. So he's really tailed off in May. So right now he stands at 20 home runs. I think he's down in the middle of the top 10. He's something like 6th or 7th overall in home runs hit. Jared Walsh, he's slowed up in a sense. He had 10 home runs in April, and he's got 7 home runs in May. Now, he still has 7 days to go in May, so he very easily could hit 10 home runs in May. But this is a guy who hit 10 home runs from March 22nd to the 30th. So he hit 10 home runs in 8 days, and then he hit 10 home runs in April. Right now, he looks like he's going to hit about 9, maybe 10 home runs in May. So he's slowed up from his torrid start, but he's stayed pretty consistent. He leads the league right now with 27 home runs. He's 4 ahead of Arozarena and Dahlbuck, who both have 23 right now. So it's a bit of a power outage. It's a power outage for Judge, not a huge power outage for Walsh. He's just not hitting home runs like crazy like he was early in the season. So, yeah. And Pullman's playing well right now. They've had a softer part of the schedule, and they've played well in that softer part. And so they're going in with a little bit of momentum to the week. New faces. So, as I've mentioned a couple times, interleague play starts this week. It's the first of 2 rounds of interleague play. This first round lasts from May 24th till June 27th. Then we go back to playing teams within our own league. Play everybody within our own league once, and then the second round of interleague play starts July 30th. That runs to August 26th. This is where things get really interesting because now you're facing teams that you haven't faced yet, and we kind of get an idea of how differently it is playing against teams in the other league. So, and the other big thing is too, you're also going to have more separation now. I think right now every division's close, and that can happen when you're playing each other. Now that we're playing other teams, you're going to see more separation happen in the divisions. So it'll be interesting to look at where the divisions are now and compare them again on the 27th after those games have been played, which is good because we'll also kind of get an idea of that because we'll have the power rankings coming up in 7 days, and then we'll have the power rankings coming up again just after interleague play ends. So we'll kind of get an idea of how much interleague play will have affected the power rankings. So interesting games coming up. It's going to be fun to watch. Speaking of those games, I was hoping for some interesting series coming up because of interleague play starting, but really the first week of interleague play isn't that exciting looking. May 25th to the 27th, I listed Moncton at Bonavista Bay. Moncton's 28 and 26, Bonavista Bay 27 and 27. Two teams going in opposite directions at the moment. I pretty much just listed this series because these guys were in the same division for quite a while, so it's kind of old rivalry renewing for interleague play. So it'll be fun to watch these two teams going at it. Broad Street's playing Hilo. Broad Street tied for first. Hilo has been surging. They are 2 games out of first place. They've won 4 in a row. I think this is going to be a really good series. And both teams trying for first place in their divisions. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. And this one should be interesting too. Toronto kind of reeling after their sweep at the hands of Guelph for 29 and 25. Hespeler 31 and 23. Both teams looking to kind of get back into their winning ways. So this is a pretty good series. I think this one will be an interesting series to watch. Pitching is going to be a real key in this one. Later in the week, this is about as exciting as the series get. Kelowna 31 and 23 will take on Richvale, who are 30 and 24. Chances are, even though it's in Richvale, this one could really go Kelowna's way because of Richvale's injuries, because Richvale's been struggling. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kelowna kind of decimates Richvale in this series. But we'll see. Stranger things have happened. But yeah, this is about as exciting as it gets. Every other series at the end of the week is basically a team doing really well against a team doing really poorly in the other league. So yeah, there's not going to be a lot of great comparisons going on for this week. But hey, that makes next week even more exciting when I have less to talk about, right? So that'll give me something. So, your top 5 stars of the week. The batters. Let's take a look at your batters. We got Marcelo Osuna of Guelph. 292 hit this week with 2 doubles, 4 home runs, 14 RBIs to lead the league this week. He's been on a tear and a big reason why Guelph had success against Toronto and has had success lately. Bryce Harper from Moncton hit 368 with 4 home runs, 8 RBIs. He walked 6 times and struck out twice this week, helping to lead Moncton's surge recently. They're now a game out, by the way, in the Cox division, right behind Toronto and Wilmore. So that's a really tight race for first place right now. Jesse Winker of Broad Street hit 474, pair of doubles, pair of home runs, 7 runs scored. He walked 5 times, struck out 4 times. Byron Buxton from Richvale, 375 with a pair of doubles, 3 home runs, and 7 RBIs. Added a stolen base for good measure. And Andrew Stevenson from Pullman gets a star because he hit 478 this week and hit 5 doubles. Pretty impressive. Really led the offense this week while Judge wasn't hitting too many home runs, and I think Walsh only had 1 home run this week. Both Judge and Walsh this week, I think, both hit under 200 for Pullman. So Stevenson was really the reason why their offense surged this week. And your top 5 stars of the week pitchers. Yeah, I cut it down to 5 because the list seemed to be getting long every week when I was doing it. So I just picked the top 5 batters, the top 5 pitchers. I'll try to keep that the method of doing this going forward. So your top 5 pitchers, I'm going to butcher this name. Antonia Sensatella from Broad Street. 1-0 with a 0 ERA in 2 starts. 15.1 innings. He gave up 1 earned run, lost that game 1-0. And then gave up a run in his other start. Or no runs in his other start and got the win. So he had a good week. He very easily could have been 2-0 if he had some offense in his other game. Jake Arrieta from Binghamton, 2-0, 2.57 earned run average. Has pitched really well for Binghamton lately. Devon Williams of Pullman picked up 3 saves this week with a 1.69 ERA. The only pitcher to pick up 3 saves. Yeah, Nick Anderson only had 1 save. But 0 walks, 11 strikeouts, and 5.1 innings for him in relief. Dustin May of Hilo went 2-0 with a 1.64 earned run average, 13 strikeouts, and 11 innings. And Alex Kopp, he went 1-1, but he had a 1.20 ERA, had a complete game shutout, and threw 15 innings for Kitchener. I listed him basically, even though he was 1-1, I listed him because he's pitched well for a Kitchener team that has just fallen apart in the last couple of weeks. And this really was the lone bright spot in the Destroying Angels lineup or team. So I had to give him credit where credit was due, and he had a good week, so had to make mention of it. So that is your EMFBL this week. Packed a lot in. Took, 30 minutes and 53 seconds, so not bad. That was what I was aiming for, was 30 minutes. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, let me know. If you have anything to say about what I said, you can leave your comments down below, or you can go onto the EMFBL message boards and leave your comments in there. If you want to watch all the videos, if they start to disappear from the league website, they are all saved in YouTube. You can watch them there. You just got to subscribe to the channel. Doesn't cost you anything, but you'll be able to watch whatever videos, and you can go back and watch old videos and see if I was right or wrong about things I said could be coming up. So, up to you. That's it for this week. Hope you enjoyed. I'm David. Have a good week, everybody. And to all the Canadians out there, happy Victoria Day.